I want you to take a moment to pat your own self on the back. See, let me tell you what I've learned about myself and so many of my sisters, so many of you. We'll have a big goal, then we accomplish that big goal, but because we have so much on our plates, we check the box and go on to the next thing. But intentional living means living with intention, doing life in a way that is not passive, but purposeful. And so I want us to make sure we are purposeful, not just about achieving our goals, but celebrating them too, okay? So one more time, let's do a little dance, do a little dance. What dance did you do? I'm gonna flash back to the prep. I'm showing my age. Okay, whatever dance you do, I'm glad you are dancing. See, we are already learning and we're just getting started. Now, before I share about our special guest today, I want to remind you of the feel for intentional living with life coach Robin May. I want you to pretend that you are actually sitting in my living room with me and my other girlfriends. We all have a cup of coffee or tea. We're catching up, we're laughing, and we're talking about what matters most to women, from parenting to walking in purpose, to how to dress for your body type, to relationships, to what in the world does life balance even look like. We are talking about it all. It's a meeting in the living room, okay? Now, on to this episode. In this episode, we're talking all things mental health, mindset, and motherhood. Yes, we're covering it all in this conversation. And I have a very special guest, one of my sorority sisters, my sister friend, and one of the professionals in my field that I truly admire. Joining me today is Dr. Melanie Hill. Dr. Hill is a licensed psychologist and owner of the Behavioral Management Group. She is passionate about helping people, especially parents, get unstuck on their journey. This conversation is going to be amazing. Now, before Dr. Melanie and I get into our conversation, I want you to do two things for me. First, if you haven't already, make sure you join the private Facebook group where we will continue the conversation immediately after the show. You can get access to the group by going to Facebook and putting in the AIB group. It's ladies only. Sorry, fellas. Second, I want you to reach out to your circle, your mom, your sister, your aunts, your girlfriends, and I want you to invite them on this journey with you. Amazing women connect with other amazing women. So let's not do this by ourselves. Okay, y'all, that's it. It's time for me and Dr. Melanie to chat. Let's go into the living room. Welcome to the living room, my sisters. I am so excited to have this conversation with Dr. Melanie Hill. Melanie and I were initiated into our beautiful sisterhood together. She is my friend, and she is someone I truly admire in the psychology field. Melanie is a licensed psychologist and runs the Behavioral Management Group. I cannot wait to dive into this conversation. Welcome, Dr. Hill.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here. You know, you were my professor, you are my sister, and this is just so exciting. So before we dive into this conversation, I want everyone to learn a little bit about you. So tell me a bit about yourself, where you're from, how you got to the ATL, and the makeup of your family.
Sure. So I am originally from Macon, Georgia, born and raised. And my introduction to the psychology field really came from my childhood, actually. My mother was a special education teacher, and I can recall going to her classroom after school, and I always was very drawn to her students. At that time, special education looked very different. And so the students who were in her class were really, you could certainly tell that there was something probably wrong with the student. And I remember watching other students tease them and make fun of them. And so I always knew that I wanted to be an advocate or a voice for students or for people in general who may not have had a voice. And so that's kind of where probably my advocacy or my passion for students with special needs came from. And then when I think it was my junior year in high school, I took an abnormal psychology class.
Wow.
And so I was like, I really enjoy this. I really enjoy learning about psychology and how people think. And so when I went to Clark Atlanta University, because that's how I got to Atlanta, initially I was torn between biology and psychology. I thought I wanted to go to medical school, and so I was drawn to the biology track, but after I took my first course in biology, I knew that that's not what I wanted to do, and so I pursued psychology. And then continuing my educational career at Georgia State, getting my master's at Georgia State in counseling, professional counseling, and then going on to the University of Georgia, where I completed my PhD in psychology.
Well, I love that, and I love sharing that, because I like for our sisters to kind of learn how people figured out their purpose. Now tell us a little bit about the makeup of your family, your children, your husband.
Yes. So I am the proud mother of 3 girls, 3 beautiful girls, ages 16, 11, and 10. They are absolutely my world, and I've been married for 18 years to my husband, whom I adore. And we work very well together as a family.
And so you're trying to navigate career, you're navigating marriage, and you're navigating parenting, and so you are perfect for this conversation. Okay. So today we are covering a lot. We are talking mental health, we're talking mindset, and we are talking motherhood. And I even said mastering motherhood, but the truth is, women in particular, all 3 of those areas impact us in ways that we can hardly express. Listen, your mental health can impact the way you think. The way you think is impacting how you mother your children. So one of the things I know is if our children are not good, we are not good. So with that in mind, let's start with mental health.
Okay.
So clearly there has been a concerted effort to normalize mental health and understanding what's necessary in the last few years, but still mental health still has a stigma. So in your practice, particularly with the women you're working with, what do you believe is the biggest reason women don't seek psychological support?
I think there are a number of reasons, actually. Time, because we're juggling. We typically are juggling multiple responsibilities, with, like as you stated, whether there's work or family, and so our ability to dedicate time for our own self-care, I think, often gets overlooked and compromised. So I would say time, putting ourselves first in that way. I think particularly when you're a mother, you're always focused on what's in the best interest of your children. And so your emotional well-being, oftentimes we just press through. So I think for women, we tend to just kind of press through whatever we're experiencing and not stop to really try to understand what's going on, and to really understand, is there something I could do to make my life easier?
When you said that, what's so powerful about it is we are calling ourselves pressing through for our children, but our children need to see us take care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So in my practice, a lot of the women I work with have a hard time sorting through their mental health diagnosis and what are everyday hormonal issues. So can you shed some light on how to figure out when it's just everyday stuff or when there's a psychological concern?
Okay. There are definitely medical diagnoses that sometimes mimic mental health. I've talked to a lot of physicians about the thyroid, having thyroid complications. And when you're experiencing thyroid complications, it certainly can mimic mental health issues. So the first thing, I think it is important to have a physical, a physical to try to rule out if there are any complications hormonally, with thyroid complications or any other medical issue that might be affecting your energy level, your concentration, sleep. So those are all variables that you want to assess to rule out any medical complications. But as it relates to mental health, I think we all at some point in time experience challenges, stress, but how we're coping with those variables and how long that stress continues, I think is when we want to start looking at considering mental health things. So for instance, most of us have bad days, but we tend to kind of rebound, particularly after maybe the situation corrects itself or when we find a different way of coping with this. Maybe the situation hasn't changed, but we found a way to navigate it and manage it.
Yes.
But when those complications continue or they continue to persist, such as sleep disturbances, I always ask, that's one of the number one questions I ask patients a lot of the times. How are you sleeping?
Yes.
Because sleeping is a very good indicator of the stress level and anxiety level someone is experiencing.
Yes.
And then as well as just your motivation, your interest.
Yes.
Your interest is a huge, I think, warning sign as well, because things that you tended to enjoy before, but you no longer are enjoying those, and you can't really seem to find any joy in the things that you're doing, that also can that can be an indicative of depression.
Yeah, so those are some of the indicators. Okay, so one more question before we jump into mental health.
Okay.
I did want to ask you this. How about your family history? How can that impact, or what do you need to pay attention to with that? We only have a few minutes with that one.
Okay.
But how does your family history play a part?
So if I haven't learned anything in the 15 years I've been practicing, the genetic component to mental illness is undeniable. It's undeniable. It is so what happens with the genetic component, oftentimes our genes predispose us to certain things, certain conditions, and mental illness is no different. And so I'm always going to ask about family history of mental illness. And when I say mental illness, usually I try to define that, because a lot of times people are like, well, no, I don't have any mental illness. But then when you look at, I said, was anyone depressed or anxious? And a lot of times in families, particularly families of color, oftentimes they don't know that someone has been diagnosed with mental illness. They're just saying, well, I had an aunt
who was a little,
she had her own way of doing things, but I'm not sure she was formally diagnosed with anything. And so you always want to ask those questions about mental illness. You always want to try to extrapolate as much information as you can from folks. But even still, even with asking, sometimes we just don't know.
But you can look at some of the symptoms might be matching some symptoms that you're experiencing. All right, sisters, I told you this was going to be a great, great conversation. We have to dive into 2 more parts, so I can already tell this is going to be too good to fit into all one episode. So remember, I want you to make sure you are following us in our private Facebook group. So I'm going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to dive into more of this conversation. Hey girl, hey. Guess what? It's time for my ICM, my intentional coaching moment. This is the time where I get to chat directly with you. During my conversation with Dr. Hill, we covered mental health, mindset, and mastering motherhood. That's a pretty tall order, huh? All 3 areas are pretty serious, and they impact how we are showing up in the world. But I believe they are all undergirded by one thing that I don't think we talk enough about, and that is our core beliefs. Core beliefs can best be described as the truth that we hold that fuels how we think. And listen, girl, we have core beliefs about everything: men, friendship, money, parenting, health, church, politics. We have core beliefs about everything. Maybe you have a core belief that desiring to be wealthy is not a good thing, and so that impacts how you handle money. Maybe you have a core belief that it's the woman's job to take the lead in caring for the children, so you put your career on hold. Maybe you have a core belief that men cannot be trusted, so you're just not open to a new relationship. So again, our core beliefs are fueling what we do. But can I tell you, I have found with the women that I work with that most of us are not aware of our core beliefs. Yes, we all have them, but for many of us, we are moving so fast, we're doing so much that we have never slowed our lives down long enough to really unpack and uncover what our true core beliefs are, even though, as I said, they are driving everything that you do. Sister, Even if you have never met me, I've never met you, I feel like I know you by the heart. I'm pretty sure you fall into one of three categories. Maybe you are a young woman just starting out in her career, or maybe just starting your family. You're trying to make your way. You're trying to get clear on what you want to do and be. You have big dreams and big goals, and so you're trying to achieve a measure of success that will secure your future. You're basically trying to figure it all out. Or maybe you are a middle-aged woman, even though you can't believe that that describes you. You are at the point of your life that you're looking over the first half of your journey, and you know it's time to make some adjustments. What used to be okay, it just isn't okay anymore. You're knocking it out the park in one area, but you feel like a hot mess in the other. You too are trying to figure it all out. Or maybe you are a more seasoned woman. You're at the point of life where folks are telling you that you should be slowing down. You are well past middle age, but you still feel like you have some pep in your step, but you don't know what that looks like. You are secure in a lot of areas, but you still have some questions too. You are the one that people are looking to for wisdom, but you need some wisdom yourself. So just like the young woman, just like the middle-aged woman, you too are trying to figure it all out. Here's the thing, my sister. All of what you do, how you show up, what happens next in this season of your life, it is being fueled by what you believe. Many times, we're looking over the course of our life and we're wondering, how in the world did I end up here? Well, girl, it's directly connected to your core beliefs. But your core beliefs don't just fall down from the sky. They don't start to form yesterday. Whether you are 25 or 75, your core beliefs started forming way back in childhood. They came from what you were taught, your perceptions, your experiences. So if you want to figure out how you ended up where you are in life, you have to start to unpack some of your core beliefs. Follow this. The way you think fuels what you feel. How you feel fuels what you do. Your thoughts guide your feelings, and your feelings guide your actions. So if you want to make a change in your life, I don't want you to judge yourself. Don't be overly critical. You start by doing an honest assessment of where you are. You have to understand how that makes you feel and the thoughts that have contributed to those feelings and the core beliefs that are at the foundation of your life. Are you stuck in a dead-end job? What is your core belief about what it means to be successful? Are you on the merry-go-round of a toxic relationship? What is your core belief about what you deserve when it comes to love? Are you frustrated about your finances? What is your core belief about wealth? When you are courageous enough to slow your life down, quiet the noise, ask yourself the tough questions, give honest answers, and examine your core beliefs, you will begin to unpack patterns of thoughts that have hindered you and are not helping you. And sister, often you cannot do that process alone. It's okay to seek out a licensed therapist, a certified life coach, a pastor, even a wise friend to help you sort through your stuff. It's worth it. You are worth it.